like you said, we always talk about UNLV on the show, and I'm always like, I wonder if the nation cares about UNLV because we get listened to all over really the world, which is crazy. But then all of a sudden drops right in our laps, maybe the biggest news in college football that I've literally seen everywhere is dealing with the team that you have been hyping up for 3 weeks, rightfully so, or 4 weeks, rightfully so. So let's get into it, Casino. My mouth is about to crap out on me, so just give us the rundown of the UNLV drama.
All right. So the rundown of UNLV drama is the quarterback that UNLV picked up this year, Matthew Sluka, coming from Holy Cross, who he was over there. He was in that league. He was the offensive player of the year last year. He's a really good quarterback, decent arm. I mean, he's under 50% completion rating, but he can run really well. He's good in the scramble. But he decides that he wasn't being the UNLV was not being honest with him and wasn't giving him all the representation that they said that they were going to do for him. When it came to the NIL, apparently he was guaranteed by an assistant coach $100,000, and the verbal. There's nothing in writing about this, by the way. Just throwing that out there. And he got none of that money. And he was being given the old reach around by UNLV, apparently, about getting extra money per game, this and that. And he told them that he wanted $300,000 to continue playing for this team. And if he does not get that, he is going to redshirt for the rest of the season, which he has with the transfer. He has that option to do so and sit out the rest of the season, and then he was going to go to another team the following year. So that's what's going on, and I have trouble with this in a lot of ways for both sides, and just like my views of this, as being a UNLV fan aside, that man, I really have trouble with this situation and the NIL. I've talked about it plenty on this show about how I hate the fact that schools can pay players if they have the money and other schools can't, and this is going to cause a lot of issue going forward. Oh boy, did I hit the nail on the head on that one. I fucking crushed it, didn't I? There's talks of no team being involved in this, and no team saying that they're going to pay him more money to redshirt and then transfer to their school. I have trouble believing that. So apparently after these 3 games, he got an agent who's not registered in the state of Nevada, by the way, just throwing that out there. He got an agent, and this agent told him that he can be making more money at another school. So for him to say it has nothing to do with another school, that's kind of bullshit. I think that's bullshit. Anyway, what are your thoughts on this? And I'll continue going on my rant about this in a little bit, but I kind of want to hear your thoughts of it. We can go back and forth and talk about the NIL and more about this situation in general.
Now, see, this is obviously it's a weird situation. That's why literally everyone's talking about it. I mean, I typed in UNLV football, and you can get this story from Yahoo, USA Today, ESPN, CNN, NBC, Fox. Like this is like broken the doors or kick the doors wide open in terms of
because
NIL
now
discussion.
with the NIL, like they have the NCAA has no power at all now.
Which I'm actually fine with. Fuck the NCAA.
Okay, but that's gonna fuck the landscape of this. College football is gonna become garbage. Because all right, good, continue, and then I'll explain why I think this is ridiculous that the NCAA has no control.
So my issue always with college sports, especially college basketball and college football, has always been the word amateur gets thrown around for it, right? Like it's like, oh, it's amateur, it's amateur, it's amateur. It's funny how it's only amateur to the people playing it when coaches are making $10 million a year and they're playing for schools that are worth billions and billions of dollars just based on their sporting programs. Look at Alabama for basketball, look at Kentucky and Duke and UConn and everybody at that. So my issue has always been with the we can't pay the players because it's amateur. And then it's like, so only the people playing are under amateur rules where they cannot get paid, but everybody on the boards of these schools and the coaches and the coaching staff, all of them can reap all the benefits, but the people actually on the court or on the field playing get none of that money. So
Well,
when
that's okay. So
NIL,
I agree with you for an extent of that, but you got to also think that this is just me playing devil's advocate here because I do
yeah,
players
go.
getting paid, yes. So coaches, that's a position, that's a job. That's a job. You're not in school to be a student athlete. Like that's a career, that's a job. You are being employed by the school. You're not going there to play. You have your pick to do whatever. Like that's a job. That is a career. That is not them going out there and playing. I get your point. I really do. But I look at
Well,
it like it's also that's their job. They should get paid for a job that they're doing. The students are playing these sports to try to get a job, to try to get their job in the professional landscape.
I agree, but there's still, but you and I could not go walk onto UNLV right now and start playing, right? So it's not a job in a sense that not everybody is qualified for it. You have a small window where you can, that's why the red shirting and sitting out is so important because literally you have, I think at most, like max, you can get 6 years, right? Like an injury or a red shirt year and all that kind of stuff. So now, the thing I will say, particularly to this situation, is, and I've read a shitload about this because I was
Mhm.
fascinated by it. I do understand the point of this guy, the Matthew Sluka. How do you say it? Sluka?
Matthew
Sluka?
Sluka.
Sluka. So I understand the perspective of him, which I've read somewhere. I wish I could credit where I first saw this, but I've seen this take everywhere and I agree with it. This guy is not going to be an NFL starting quarterback,
No.
right? He
So
doesn't
he
have the
wants his
tools.
money.
He's not athletic. So this might be legitimately the one chance in his life unless he, is great at, unless he's going to school to be a doctor or whatever jobs that you can just be a multimillionaire and what, right? So this is his one chance to get actual cash money paid, a big payday, and his stock has never been higher because like we've been talking about on the show for the past month, he's 3-0. The kind of UNLV is this dark horse team that everybody's paying attention to. Now,
Yeah,
I
they
agree
have
with
the
you.
they are the front runners for that 5 conference wild card spot for that last spot in the playoffs. They are the front runner for it. At
Yes.
least going into this, and we'll see how they continue with their backup quarterbacks, which to be honest, I actually have full faith in, to be honest. I'll explain why I think UNLV will be fine in a little bit, but continue.
Well, that's also another thing. Like, if we've seen uh it's ironic that Antonio Pierce, the coach of the Raiders, literally was just doing a press conference on Sunday talking about how certain players on his team made business decisions. Everybody thought that was like a shot at Devontae Adams for whatever reason, but this is legitimately a business decision. And it might be one of those things where, again, the reports came out that he walked into whose ever office is responsible for NIL deals and basically was like,
Well,
you
no,
guys
apparently
promised me.
it said that he walked into walked into Barry Odom's office and demanded $300,000,
Yeah,
which
said
is
I
more
was
than this
promised
is
a
a
hundred thousand. I
100.
want 300,000 because we're 3-0.
Right.
And however much
So,
credit he wants to take for
so
that.
I fair, but here's my point. They can't this was a verbal agreement. This was not in writing to what I have read up so far. So who's to say that he is not making that up? Because UNLV is denying that any of that ever happened.
Yeah.
So
Well,
who
but then again, why wouldn't they? Why
well,
wouldn't they
right.
deny it
But
happened?
okay, but why wouldn't he want to do this? If he knows that he can try to strong arm and he could try to get leverage going elsewhere, why wouldn't he do this? So like to me, it's at this point, he said, she said, whatever. But
Yeah.
I think it hurts both of them. I
Oh,
think it
yeah.
hurts UNLV tremendously because even if they didn't do it, and they didn't say that, players are going to be like, oh, well, UNLV doesn't live up to, what they say they're going to do. Regardless if that's false accusations by Matthew Sluka or not, that's going to hurt him, you know?
Yeah.
And then for
No,
Matthew
no.
Sluka, and
Nobody
then for
comes looking good out of this.
no, and
Nobody.
then Sluka comes out. What teammates for whatever school he goes to is going to be like, oh, I trust this guy. I want him to be my quarterback, which I'll be honest. Yes, UNLV's 3-0, but I will, and I'm excited on the teams they beat because those were teams that UNLV has not done well against in the past. And, they're still higher caliber teams than what UNLV played at or play like quality that they've played against. But Kansas is 1-3 right now. So I mean, to me, that was still an amazing big win, especially coming and beating them last year. That was still a P4, P5, whatever it was win. Houston hasn't done so great as well this season. But on the road, again, UNLV, that's a big win for UNLV's program. That's a caliber team that they're not used to playing, and they went in and got it done. So he did not look good in all these games. Like he's scrambling, and some of that could be the O line, some of that could just be holding on to the ball too long. His completion rating is under 50%.
Yeah, it's like
He's the yeah,
44% or
he's the
something like that.
leading
Yeah.
rusher for the team, but that's because he has to scramble. And he's a great scrambler. I'll give him that. But I mean, your stock is not great. It's not like you're out here lighting it up. It's not like you're going 26 for 30 every single game. You know what I
Well,
mean? And
that's
you're
why I think I agree with what you said earlier, which is that he said there's not another school involved. He would not do this if he did not have at least minimum a
okay.
verbal commitment from a Power 5 school.
And then that is where I have now issue with this whole situation. That is
Well, it's
considered
fucking
that's
insane
that's
that you
called
can just do this in the middle of the season.
right.
That's
And that's
that's
and
insane.
that is insane. And that's because the NCAA doesn't have any more power because all the schools that sued to get players to do the NIL, and this is what a lot of people's worry was about, is students being able to do this and students being offered money. You're not how this is supposed to work is you're not allowed to be offered money to play for a school based off of your talent, like on your performance. That's what I was reading up on. You can't do that. So like it's like, oh, he's having a good season. We're gonna pay you X amount of money
Yeah,
to
yeah.
register, not hurt your body, and come play with us next season. If that is found out to be true, that Sluka is lying, which they're gonna investigate, I guarantee you, if they can prove this, that is 100% tampering, and it's very close to being a felony. I was reading up on all that, but with how rules are going to set, it could just be they could. You've got it, honey. I'll change it. That's just going to be considered tampering.
Yeah.
But that is really fucked up because now you can get to the. Okay, honey, I'm coming. Could you continue, and I'll explain what I'm talking about here in a second because I gotta stop her
Yeah.
from yelling.
My I guess my whole issue with the whole NIL situation, especially with it being brought to the light with the whole Sluka situation at UNLV, is that the NIL is flawed because it's basically having boosters and people connected to the school or sponsors of the school pay your players money. Now, obviously, there's, college football players were being paid always, right? There, you can watch a million documentaries, videos, you can go searching all day long for Alabama, any of the big SEC schools giving cars, money to families so their players got taken care of. That's again, which I'm fine with, but why don't we just make that the like legal thing? Why don't we make it where it's like your starting quarterback? We did this with the draft, right? Where it's like you're all locked into these specific things, and then it's like you get paid this much, you get paid this much, you get paid this much based on where you're drafted. So if you're a five-star quarterback, like a five-star quarterback recruit, no matter what school you go to, you should be paid this much. If you're a four-star quarterback, you should be paid this
Right.
much. And then we adjust it based on the schools. I don't know why we're having with NIL deals, other people play for your players to play for your school. When you have a team, again, like Alabama, that's a multi billion-dollar company, and it's like, well, they can't pay the players, and then it's like, yeah, but you guys just agreed that the players can get paid,
Right.
so you're basically being like, we'll technically give you $100,000, but that's just for tuition. And then it's like, okay, why can't you just give me $100,000? Like, I'm fucking going to anthropology 201 and I'm sitting in the back of the classroom doing a presentation on my hair, right? That was the famous thing with Trevor Lawrence where he
Yeah.
was in class doing the hair thing. So college football has always been corrupt. The NCAA has always been corrupt.
Right.
It so
Well, and
that's why
this
I
is
don't feel
where
bad
now I
for.
think it gets shaky though. This is where I was
Yes.
going to get up before my daughter interrupted. Is what's stopping any school? Like you just said, Alabama, Auburn. What is stopping any school going? Let's offer this player $2 million to come out and say he's redshirting, and then he's going to come and join us, or to throw a game. Hey, if I'll give you $200 million if you throw this game for us. I'm
Well,
just
yeah. But
throw
this
this
has
game
always been
throw
but
this
this
game
has always
for
been on the table.
okay, but now people can't get in trouble for it. People can't get in trouble for it.
Yeah. Well, I think my whole thing with this is again, it's the she said he said thing, but it's also weird where it's like, oh, we offered this guy $100,000 to come here, and then he's played 3 games, and they said what? He's gotten 5 grand of it at most, or
So
something like that.
it's 3 grand. So this is what their proposal was apparently verbally $100,000, and they gave him $3,000, which I'll be honest, I don't agree. I don't believe the $100,000 thing is real. I just personally don't. I don't.
Okay.
I'll just
Yeah.
say that if it is, it is. I'm going to fall on the UNLV side of this. Just throwing that out there because any player that is willing to, and I get your point about this is his only time he could probably get paid, but any player that's willing to just go, who's on the verge of having a very successful season and make the playoffs with UNLV and actually get looked at, like if they can go undefeated going into the playoffs and maybe get one win, this guy could make an NFL roster, at least a practice squad. So, with that being said, um, I don't believe that. So it was $3,000 for his moving fee and moving and transition to UNLV, and they were in the works. Apparently, this is what UNLV said: is they were in the works to offer him um, uh, game day checks, basically for an additional $3,000 per game. But that would have only come out to roughly like 12 or $14,000, whatever it would be, which would be like 88 short of what he was originally promised. Again, he said, she said, originally promised. So that's where the issue comes with all of them. So you've got to. It's really, who do you believe in this situation? Um, but you can see a lot of teams now and quarterbacks, not just quarterbacks, just a lot of players going, well, he did this. What's stopping me from doing that? And this is just the tip of the iceberg, and everybody's been waiting for it. And so I still think UNLV is going to be fine moving forward, regardless of all of this stuff, because they do have a couple quarterbacks still in the league or still on the team. One has been he's a senior. He's been playing there his whole career. He's got some decent completion ratings. He's seen some game time. Plus, you have a couple other quarterbacks that were fighting for this gentleman, and then one other quarterback was fighting for the starting job at UNLV after last year when Mayava left, which he didn't start any game so far this year. Anyway, just saying, leave UNLV. Um, but I fully trust Mariota or Barry, yeah, blah, blah, blah. The coach Odom. Thank you. I fully trust the coach, and he has a mentality, and he's shown it that it's just next man up. Even when they had their blowout win this season in Game 2 against Utah Tech, when he put in the second stringers and the third stringers, if they weren't producing, he was pulling them off the field. He has a standard where every single player that's on that team, and this is why UNLV went from not known to all of a sudden in 2 years that he's been there to being they were just shy of the top 25 last year, and they went to the conference tournament and lost, but they went to a bowl game that they haven't been in forever. So he's done a very good job in just the short amount of time that he's been there. So I'm not worried about UNLV in a whole as long as they stay. As long as that coach stays and the rest of the coaching staff stays, I don't think UNLV will have an issue, even with the whole Sluka, UNLV not paying their players. Because I'll tell you this: if this really was UNLV's fault and they did not pay their player that they said they were going to pay via NIL, then you damn well know they're going to follow through on every single one coming from here on out.
Oh, yeah.
Because they just have to. So as long as the coaches stay, I think UNLV is going to be fine. Like I said, the Sluka's just was really good in the scramble, but UNLV has really, really good running backs that have been nationally recognized, and that's not me being just they've been nationally recognized. Plus the receivers who aren't seeing a lot of catches because this quarterback can't really can't throw the ball that well. You have De Jesus and you have White the third. They are outstanding. They were last year. They were in the All-American players. So you have the talent in receiving core that as long as you could have somebody throw the football and hand the football off, you don't need a superstar quarterback. You just don't. Look what
Yeah.
last year UNLV did with a above average throwing quarterback that was a true freshman. They did really well because they had the players in receiving core that could take care of them. And then they had the running game to help open it up. All these players stayed. The only players that left were the quarterback last year, and they brought Sluka in thinking he would be the answer. But he was in a race at the beginning of the year to start the year. People did not know who was going to be the UNLV starting quarterback to start the game. Like, come game time decision, damn near. And then even then, they thought that other quarterbacks were going to get some play time. And yes, my daughter is very excited for Halloween.
I mean, who isn't excited for Halloween? Braxton, are you excited for Halloween? My son is also excited for Halloween. But I think that's all we have left to say for UNLV Casino. I guess my concern about this would be the damage that this would do to UNLV because again, it's not in college, especially when you're playing in the Mountain West or outside of a Power 5 conference. It doesn't seem that hard to just get players, right? It does seem hard to keep players because the second they have one good season under their belt or other opportunities, they just transfer to a Power 5 school. I'd
Right.
be shocked if this guy did not get an offer to go
Well,
be
that's what a lot of the
quarterback.
speculation is. That
Yeah,
is he's got an offer elsewhere, and he's told to redshirt to
yeah,
make this up, to make all this money thing up, and so he can redshirt. And so he had to have a reason to redshirt. So this
yeah.
is where a lot of people are, and not just UNLV fans or the school itself, but other media members who aren't on Sluka's side are saying, what if he's just saying all this money stuff as a as a ruse to say this is why I'm redshirting, and then it's because he's got a bigger offer elsewhere and he doesn't want to hurt his body.
Yeah. I mean,
And
yeah.
that's the reality of now teams. And if this is successful and that was the way to do it, even if it wasn't what he meant to do, or saying this wasn't what it was actually happening, I mean, everybody's talking about it. So what's going to stop other players to be like accepting offers like, ooh, if I just get a red shirt this year and whatnot to preserve my body for another team, that's tampering.
Yeah, but again, when it's he said, she said, it's going to be real hard to prove tampering and all that kind of stuff. So, we can move off this casino. Good discussion. I know you were going through it when I sent you that drama right there.